What's going on, Falcon fan? This your boy, Ricardo, come back at you with another video. And today we're going to talk about Victory Tuesday. The Atlanta Falcons continue to build on this season, right? Definitely not where they need to be, but they like what you had. 2-game winning streak, game that I felt that they had to, represent coming off a bye, right? That would make good teams, good coaching staffs, have 2 weeks to prepare for an opponent, and you come out and you live up to what you need to do. Atlanta Falcons look good in prime time as usual. They got another prime time game coming up. And, we'll talk about that later on this week. But let's talk about this game. So with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys out here to talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come here and talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So let's go game recap real quick for this game, and we look at it. Let's go to plays first. Atlanta Falcons had 66 plays. The Buffalo Bills only had 54 plays. It's a low number of plays to have in a game. Total yards. The Atlanta Falcons held the Buffalo Bills to 291 yards. The fifth consecutive time this season they hold the team to under 300 yards. They had 443 yards. They had over 350 yards, almost more than that in the first half. So you love to see that. What they producing. For passing down, Josh Allen was 15 for 26 in passing. Michael Penix Jr. was 20 for 32. 233 passing yards. Of course, that's coming to sack numbers. He had like 250 passing, but of course, the sack numbers that. Josh Allen only had 157 passing yards. That speaks volumes for a way that Atlanta Falcons defense are playing. Rush attempts, they only had 24. The Atlanta Falcons had 32. 210 rushing yards total for the Atlanta Falcons. 134 for the Buffalo Bills, where they got it going in the second half. You didn't like what you seen there. Average rushing yards, like I said, that 5.6. So you see somewhere Atlanta Falcons need to improve some. Penalties, only 6 penalties did not hurt us at all. Interceptions, Atlanta Falcons did pick up Josh Allen 2 times. They got 4 sacks on them. I think the big thing that we liked from this game was the third down conversion rate. The Buffalo Bills was 2 for 9 on third down and 0 for 1 on fourth down. So on conversion downs, the Buffalo Bills was 2 for 10. You got to love that. Atlanta Falcons owned the time possession, and that's where you like to see it. Now, when you're looking at some things, Atlanta Falcons was only 5 for 12 on third downs, by 42%. They need, like I said, get up to 45%. You even like that more. But that's not bad. 5 for 12 on conversion down, 0-1 for no fourth down. So they did not get that one fourth down they went for. Those 4 sacks was huge in the game, especially with a dynamic quarterback like Josh Allen. So, overall, man, I love what we seen from Atlanta Falcons. The stadium was lit last night. Like only one thing about Atlanta, man, I think as a fan base we got to get used to this because of it's Atlanta. A lot of people have moved to Atlanta, from other cities and stuff. So it's like a melting pot of a city. It's not like like a Green Bay where only people gonna be at Green Bay people that's rooting for their team. But Atlanta Falcons have such a diverse the Falcon. I mean, the Atlanta city of Atlanta has such a diverse culture. You get a lot of people there from other cities that rep their teams, right? So with that being said, there was a lot of blue shirts in there last night, but at the same time, I still like the way what we was able to do from a fan base. We was able to represent. But Buffalo Bills, the Bill Mafia travels. They were travels. If you watch my video before the game that I put up, one thing that was interesting, man, they was so confident that they was going to put it on the Atlanta Falcons, right? I mean, and rightfully so, right? They got the reigning MVP on their team, so I can understand where they probably felt like they was gonna come in and dominate Atlanta Falcons, especially coming off a loss to their division rival, one of their division opponents in New England Patriots. So again, I guess I get it, but they were so confident that they was gonna come in and dominate the Atlanta Falcons. The problem is, from a national standpoint, a lot of the other fan bases don't get an idea, who the Atlanta Falcon is, especially this season, and this version of the Atlanta Falcons, who right now number one defense in the league. So, and they don't know that, and then they don't know about the dynamic players we got in Bijan Robinson and a uprising, wide receiver in Drake London. And I bet you they saw it last night. So, I mean, this just but what we got to do is people that move to Atlanta, right? We want to be able to win them over. They moved to Atlanta. Now it's their hometown. The Atlanta Falcons need to start winning more. And once they do that, we can flip them, man. We can flip those fans from other cities that's moved down to Atlanta, and stuff like that. But Bill Mafia, I can tell you right now from my experience being at the stadium, the Buffalo fans, the Eagles fans, Steelers fans, the Packer fans, they travel well. They really do. So I think probably Cowboy fans, of course, they all travel well. So it's always going to be like that, in our stadium. So, but I still think the fans represented last night. It was loud. It was rowdy. Only thing I don't like is when we on third down on offense, it gets pretty loud in there, and there's nothing you can do about it because, like I said, they got a lot of fans. So, and that's just the way it is. But it didn't bother us. We came in, we did what we had to do, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So, this game kind of, in my opinion, to sum it up overall, just to end up the recap, it kind of put the Atlanta Falcons to kind of starting to have an identity. On defense, you see the speed, from the front seven. All those guys are young, they fast, and you see what the way Jeff Ulbrich starting to actually utilize that attack style defense. Still got some things to clean up, of course, but they're starting to get an identity. I think from an offensive standpoint, we know it's a running team. You help your quarterback out by utilizing a play action pass. I talked about that on my last video. Start using it more, and I thought they did use it more, this last time. So you gotta like what you see from the Atlanta Falcons from that aspect. Eddie said, "Pure luck." Josh had his worst game. He had his worst game because he was playing Atlanta Falcons. Like, see, and so this is why the Atlanta Falcons do not get respect, because that was the topic today, was what's wrong with the Buffalo Bills. And that's so weird. Like, why has got to be something wrong with Buffalo Bills, and maybe like what's right about the Atlanta Falcons? So it's just it is always that way when the team plays the Atlanta Falcons play well. It's something that the other team didn't do, because like it was obvious that they rattled Josh Allen last night. They rattled him. They pressured 55% of the time last night. So it was obvious that's what was going on, right? They decided to play man defense, right? They don't have any burners out there, so they couldn't create separation. Josh Allen was rattled. He was rushed. You can see he was rushed on his throws last night. And they got out coached. Just as simple as that, right? Now they came in the second half. I thought that they was trying to establish run in the first half. They could not do it, but they was able to establish in the second half, and I think that would really help them out to actually get back into the game. But for the most part, Josh Allen was rattled last night, and it's because of the Atlanta Falcons defense. It was because he played bad, and that's, like I said, that's the national media side of it. But 5 weeks, Atlanta Falcons have not gave up a 300-yard game to the offense. That has to speak for something. Instead of everybody we play plays bad. So, Eddie says, on the real, they keep the defense playing that way consistently the rest of the way. That's got to be the key, man. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. See if they can actually continue to do that. But from a defense standpoint, you're starting to see the identity. Offensive side of the ball, we already know what identity is: run tech, run side offense, and we're gonna utilize the play action pass. Don't turn the ball over for Michael Penix Jr. He had some turnover worthy throws yesterday. They just didn't capitalize. So, but you gotta love what you're seeing from the Atlanta Falcons last night. All right, so let's dive a little bit deeper into the offensive side of the ball for the Atlanta Falcons. And two weeks in a row, Zach Robinson has been down on the field, and the operation. And I talked about this the other day when I talked about the operations of what we need to do was making sure the operation looked legit, and I think it did from a standpoint. I really believe that Zach Robinson being down there, being able to look the guys in their eyes, look the guys in their eyes, and be able to, when they come off, from whatever the drive was, they score, turnover on downs, whatever they had to punt the ball, whatever the case may be, to get down with Mike and talk about it right there, and see what he like and see how they can make adjustments. I thought Zach Robinson had a great game plan. Last night, I mean, Bijan Robinson only had 25 touches. And a lot of people say, well, that's not a lot, and he still had over 238, scrimmage yards. So that's really good. Now we got to look at, getting, Tyler more touches, and he started the game off. So Tyler only had 10 rushing attempts. Bijan had 19 rushing attempts, and you get 170 yards. You gotta like that. Receiving yards, Bijan had eight targets. Drake had 16. We're gonna talk about that in just a minute. But from an offensive standpoint, you love the game plan that Zach Robinson had. You're gonna run the ball, right? And at this point, I don't think it's a secret. Everybody knows we're gonna run the ball. It's just Bijan Robinson is electric, and he's gonna do some of the things he do. And it really, sometimes it's just nothing nobody can do about it. So yeah, Eddie said continue to grow. Yep, that's 100%. But from an offensive standpoint, guys, I really like what we seen last night. I think they could have been better in the second half. That's why they will make the game close. We only put up 3 points in the second half, so but they only put up 7. So I thought it was a defensive game in the second half for both teams. But when it counted the most, what we seen from the Atlanta Falcons was that 4-minute offense. I think they got the ball with like 6 minutes and 40-some seconds left on the clock, and they was able to have a drive that when they kicked that field goal, it was on a minute and 43 seconds left. So they made the Buffalo Bills use all their timeout. So that was executed, I mean, beautifully. I mean, it's nothing else you can ask for when you get into your 4-minute offense. You want to be able to eat clock up, get first downs, and if you can put points on the board, which made it a 2-score game at the time, hey man, you did your job. And that's what they was able to do. That's exactly what they was able to do. So you're not gonna not like what you're seeing from the Atlanta Falcons offense yesterday. Definitely could have been much better in the second half, but I think they did enough. And when they counted the most, like I said, that 4-minute offense, you love to see what you saw from those guys. All right, let's talk about the defense. From a defensive standpoint, we talked about it, holding a team to 291 yards, a team that, and 14 points, a team that had been averaging over 30 points a game. It was coming in as the number one offense in the league, also led the league in time possession. So those are what the Atlanta Falcons defense was going up against, right? And I'm be honest with you, that first play by Josh Allen, that bomb that he threw, I was getting a little bit out there. It's about to be a shootout, right? Because we went down and scored, and they went down and scored. I was like, okay, it's about to be a shootout. But our defense really settled down after that. Like I said, they got after Josh Allen. They decided to play man to man, which is I think, and if you look at AJ Terrell coming back to the team, after 2 week layoff from injury, I think that helped because it allows them to play more man to man with him out there. You have to tip your head off to D. Alford, right? Filling in for Billy Bowman with a late injury, late in the week, and coming in, played outside corner for 2 weeks while AJ Terrell was out. Then had to come in and play nickel, which of course, we know he's familiar with that. Had a huge interception on Josh Allen in the first half. So you really got to like what you um defense and this whole 4 sacks. I heard a stat, and this is just blows my mind. Atlanta Falcons have 14 sacks. The last time they had 14 sacks was 20 years ago. At this point of the season, in 5 games. Last time they had 14 sacks with 5 games on the docket, it was 20 years ago. So that just speaks to how inept this defense been for years, right? Um, and you got to remember we went to NFC Championship game and a Super Bowl, and in none of those years they had a 14 sacks with 5 games played. So um right now so far, and it's so early still, um those investments they made in the draft, that draft capital they gave up going in to get James Pierce, Jalen Walker, doubling down, um right now it's paying off, right? Now it doesn't show like one individual, dominating getting sacks. They're doing it by committee, but the wave of bodies, fresh bodies that they're bringing in to get after the quarterback, that's what we're starting to see. And so right now it's early, it's still early. It's only week 5. Only 5 games played, but right now, the investments that the Atlanta Falcons, Terry Fontenot put into the defense so far is paying off, man. Xavier Watts, Billy Bowman, Zach Harrison, Brooke Rororo, Brandon Dorless, all those guys are living up to it, and you gotta like what you see from those guys. So, um, I, I mean, when I look at what we have seen from this defense, the first half, and you have to expect that you was going to see some growing pains, right? Um, Early on because it was a new offense coming in. They bringing this textile defense in with Nate Ali and Jeff Ulbrich, right? And he kind of assumed that it was going to be a work in progress, right? He kind of lowered expectations because that's what he wanted to know, because it takes time, right? You look at what the Philadelphia Eagles were able to do last year, towards the end of the season. That's when their defense with Dean Pease first year coming in, and he started to figure it out. Um, right now, you look at the Dallas Cowboys. They got Matt Eberflus in there. Maybe they can turn around. He just got there. Maybe they want to give him time, but right now that defense looks terrible. So you can see, a product of what a new defensive coordinator come in and what it could possibly be. But from what Jeff Albert was been able to do in these first 5 weeks has been really, really good with a really, really young defense, right? We talked about this, one of the youngest defense in the league, right? You got guys like Rook Roro going to his second year, him and Brandon Dorless, Zach Harrison just going into his third season. You got Armor Ebiketie in his fourth season, right? They got some veterans on there, and Leonard Floyd and David Yada. Caden Ellis been there a while, Jesse Bates been there a while, AJ Terrell been there. So they have a great mixture of young guys that's we need to contribute right away, but then they have the older guys that's guys like Jesse Bates, who's all pro, right? Guy who's Leonard Floyd, who's steady Eddie, man, just put up numbers, for the last 8 seasons, being in having at least 8 sacks. So you gotta like that, right? So the mixture of what they did, you love the this team sneaky signing Divine Diablo, bringing him in a linebacker. I think has really really paid off for the Atlanta Falcons as well. Mike Hughes, who had a solid game yesterday, right? I say they played a lot of man to man, and nobody could was able to get away. Like I said, except their first play of the game for the Buffalo Bills, they deep post route, and honestly, I still believe maybe J.C. Bates should have been back there a little bit on that play, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. He said that's the same style defense Raheem ran with the Rams, identical. Yeah, good to go. I love it. I love it. We're gonna see if it can continue to do what it's do. That's what we want to see. We want to see if it can continue to be one of the best defenses in the league so far. And after 5 weeks, that's what it's the showing from the score, right? It's from the points that they're allowing, from the stats. And Raheem Morris is really, really known for saying stats are for losers. So, but right now, when you look at the stats, it's kind of matching what the Atlanta Falcons defense are producing. So, um, you kind of, I guess, if you any coach, you like what you're seeing from what the stats say and what you're producing. It kind of marries up, right? And go back to when I look at the offense, right? The offense was reducing yardage, but they weren't putting points on the board. And like I see, so that's what I'm talking about. You reducing all these yards, but you ain't putting points on the board. So, um, lately they've been flipping script on that, so that's good. But from a defensive standpoint, this Atlanta Falcons team has really, it's really heading in the right direction because it's early. So I'm not going to say that they where they need to be, because we all know you want to be playing your best football in November and December, right? That's when you want to be playing your best football. The fact that Atlanta Falcons have already, got to a level, you want to see their level still continue to ascend. And if they do that, that's going to be really awesome. You know, this one thing here, Eddie says that they're bringing pressure. Interesting thing about that, right? If you listen to Jeff Albrecht this past week, he don't want to bring pressure, right? Right now, it's working, so that's what they're doing. But he would love to play more coverage and just get pressure with his front four. Right now, that they're still learning in that aspect to create pressure like they want to. So in this case, the Atlanta Falcons right now probably creating the most pressure from simulated pressure out of any team in NFL right now, and it's really paying off. Um, from what we've seen last primetime game we had Sunday Night Football against JJ McCarthy, what we've seen from Josh Allen here on Monday Night Football. So you gotta love it. You just got to love what you're seeing from a defensive standpoint. So you look at let's real quick. Let's look at some of the where they at from a player standpoint. Yes, 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 yes. I'm gonna go here. Oops. So in this game, and I talked about it, guys. We don't have one guy that's like just stand out from a defense standpoint. They're doing it by a team. With a team is doing it. That's what you love about it, right? You look at the sacks last night. It's not coming from one guy. The offer with they sent him on a blitz from that corner position. David Mayada had a sack. Sam Roberts had a sack. Right, guy they just brought in. Right, the guy had been inactive the last 4 weeks. Brought him in. It's the guy they got out the practice squad from the Carolina Panthers. Right, so Root Roar had him a sack. So you just love the way that the Atlanta Falcons are playing, and they playing it as a unit, right? And when you got a defense that's playing that way, it's kind of hard to say we're going to stop this guy or stop that guy, right? In this case, you got to be able to learn how to what the defense is trying to do and stop the defense, right? You can't say we're gonna try to go away from this guy, run from this, because at this point right now, this defense is playing as a unit, right? And in my opinion, when you look at it like that, it's one of the most scary things, right? Because you got, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're trying to limit TJ, TJ Watt. Cleveland Browns, you're trying to limit Myles Garrett, right? Green Bay Packers, they got two. They got they got Gary and Parsons out there. So you want to try to limit those guys. Sometimes you have that. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers got another guy, Hightower. So I mean they got a guy, on the opposite side of TJ Watt as well. So, but for the most part, you're trying to stop that. So honestly, man, I'm just so excited about how the Atlanta Falcons as a team defensively, right? You're not gonna see guys, that got 110 tackles. Maybe you won't see that this year, right? And that does not mean they're not playing well. Just spreading the wealth around. They're playing as a team, and that's what you got like to see. Honestly, in my opinion, the less tackles you got and the less plays you're playing on the field, that's better your defense is, right? If you get you and I go back to Keith Brookings, right? And I'm going back old school here. Keith Brookings, right? Keith Brookings led the team in tackles a lot of times on the Falcons, but he was making those tackles like 5 or 6 yards down the field, man. Right? If you recall that. But he was one of the best tacklers in the league, but he was making a lot of tackles down the field, and that's not what you want, right? You want tackle for losses. That when you look at stats, you look at tackle for losses, you look at pressures, you look at sacks. Those kind of things you're looking at when you're looking at defenses, right? Because you want to look at turnovers, which Atlanta Falcons were able to turn the ball over twice yesterday. Those kind of things you want to look at. You can look at pressures. You want to look at tackle for losses, right? You look at turnovers, and you look at the situation of football, which is third down percentages, right? Red zone percentages. Those are things you want to look at, right? And I know Raheem say stats for losers, but when you look at those 4 or 5 categories, man, that tells you how good your defense is. Georgia Texas boy said, "What's up, Rakunda? Family new era." Yep, that's right. Eddie says, when wanted based on the game flow, Josh was rattled and he took advantage. Yeah, man, yeah. He was rattled, man. That boy rattled. He's rattled the whole game. He was rattled, man. It looked like the young Josh Allen before the MVP. It really did. Honestly, it did. All right, let's go to my last topic today, guys, and that's, can they be better? And that's what we really want to talk about today, right? And because you like what you've seen from this team, you like like the bounce back from the Carolina game, what we did with the Commanders. Now coming to prime time, you like what you've seen, but and it's always but. And if good coaching out there, and if you know anything about football, you don't care about what they did well, right? That's great, right? But it's always a but, right? And let's talk about it, right? So Drake London had 16 targets. The next person that had most targets was Bijan Robinson. Then Kyle Pitts and Tyler Algier. Guess what? Not one other receiver caught a pass yesterday. That's concerning. That's concerning. The Atlanta Falcons had a good game, but when not one other receiver catch a pass, we know Darnell Mooney's out, right? Darnell Mooney is out. We know that, right? For whatever reason, they decided Herbert McLeod. Don't know the reason that he said it was a coach's decision. Um, Maybe they're going to keep that in house. We probably would never know, but whatever the reason is, they decided not to go Ray McLeod. But Drake London was the only receiver to catch a ball. He was targeted 16 times, right? Kyle Pitts was targeted 4 times. Bijan was targeted 8 times, right? I think for the Atlanta Falcons to take the next step, and so when the question is, can it be better? I think for the Atlanta Falcons to take the next step, what needs to happen is they got to start to spread the wealth around, right? Because teams going to start keying on number 7 and number 5, right? Now, trust me, I'm pretty sure the Buffalo game plan was to eliminate number 7, number 5. They're going to do what they do, but at the same time, you can't become too predictable, right? So I think one way the Atlanta Falcons can definitely improve how they can be better, which is great because, like I said, you want to be playing your best football in November and December anyway, right? But let's remember, Michael Penix just played his 8th start in the NFL. He hadn't even had his whole season start yet, so the kid's still learning, man. The kid's still learning, but you don't want him to start to get tunnel vision at 5 and 7. I'm just saying. So that has to be something that the Zach Robinson needs to be looking at. The target distribution is not going to do the job. It's not. Now he did target Casey Washington a couple times. Couldn't hold on to the ball. So it's not like he didn't try to go to another receiver, but they didn't get any catches. So that's really concerning in my book, right? When your running back is your second targeted receiver, and you got another guy who was number 4 overall pick, it's third. So I think Kyle Pitts should have probably been more in the game plan. When you didn't have Darnell Mooney, you didn't have Ray McLeod out there. I think Kyle Pitts should be the second receiving option. Now, I get it. Bijan is going to be Bijan. So, but Kyle Pitts should have had more targets than 4. I just believe that. So when we talking about being better, that's definitely 100% what they need to look at this this week and moving forward. Keep building, trying to spread the wealth around. Another thing was the second half, right? You only put up 3 points in the second half, and honestly, I thought Michael Penix played like a rookie in the second half. Right now, he made key plays when needed, right? So that shows you the maturity. It shows you when you had to have it, and like I talked about that 4-minute drive earlier when we were talking about offense. When you had to have it, he was able to produce. But he had a couple of throws where it could have been turnovers, right? You need to be able to, like I said, get tunnel vision. You're looking at Drake too much. And both of those plays, I thought he was trying to go to Drake, and could have been turnovers on both of those plays. So he got to be start to be more better protecting the ball. Like I said, it did not hurt him in this game, but I think that's going to have to be key. So that second half, besides that last 4-minute drive that they had, and actually they had a drive before that, the field goal was blocked. So it's 2 drives that they had in the second half I thought was pretty decent, but for the most part, and Michael Penix mentioned himself, you can't produce like that from a defensive standpoint. You just can't. So we're celebrating today, and it's always good to celebrate and fix things on the coming off a win. So I'm not being a Debbie Downer here, but I really believe that they gotta be. And honestly, be honest with you, I think Terry Fontenot needs to go out and try to get another receiver, man. I'm sorry. Right. I think you need a receiver that can take the top off. And Darnell Mooney, if he can't come back, they need to make a move, man, before the trade deadline. Need to figure out how to get something, um, get some kind of receiver. I just, they got to, man, because at this point right now, the fact that um, they're not able to stretch the field, utilize Michael Penix's arm like we want to see it, and because I can tell you, I can already see it in my light. Teams going to try to take 7 out of the game. They finna start stacking the box because they can't stop him. He makes the game look easy. Now I get it. They've been trying to stop him all season long. And the only team's been able to corral him so far has been the Tampa Bay Buccaneers first game of the season. But other than that, nobody's not been able to stop. He's been able to do whatever he wanted to do. Even that Carolina game, they had to get away from the run, but Bijan was able to do what he wanted to do in that game as well. So I'm just being honest. If the Atlanta Falcons need to figure out how to be more balanced, right? We love the run game, right? But they need to be able to spread the ball around, and they need another receiver out there aside Drake London to take some pressure off the young quarterback. So that's one of the things they need to do. That's what I mean. They need offense. So other than that, man, you it's trending in the right direction, but you got to start to look at the trends and start nipping things in the bud. This to me, it's a little concerning when you get 16 targets to one player and no other receiver has more than 2 targets. And that was Casey Washington. He didn't catch any. So, like, that's not good. That's not good at all. So that's one of the things that they really need to look at going into the rest of this season. Maybe if Darnell come back, then they got their guy. If he don't come back, Terry Fontenot need to make a move, man. I'm just saying it, man. He got to make somebody that can stretch the field, and that opens up the run game as well if you're able to do that. So that's what I'm saying. From a defensive standpoint, the big concern for me on a defense standpoint, and like I said, defense been playing really great, but the running game, we have to do better in our run defense. And it has not hurt us yet, right? But they did put up 100 and 100 and some yards, man. So we got to be better than that. We just got to be better than that. I mean, James Cook has 87 yards, 5 yards a carry. Like we cannot have that, man. Like that's not good. 5 yards a carry. We limited the quarterback to 42 yards, right? And most of that came on that last drive. So that's one of the things you got to freaking look at. But the run game, the run defense for Atlanta Falcons, because I can tell you this week, Kyle Shanahan, right? We know who he is, right? He's gonna run the ball, and because he want to try to stop that pressure, that same pressure that he's seen that Josh Allen had, right? Like I said, Atlanta Falcons, the most pressured team in the league this year, right? They're bringing the most pressure. So how you stop that if you run the ball? Kyle Shanahan is known for getting the ball. Christian McCaffrey is going to be a problem for us. So being able to run the ball is going to be huge for the Atlanta Falcons. So we got to be able to stop the run. All right, and no better way to try to stop one of the best running attacks in the league this weekend, and against Kyle Shanahan, who's a mastermind play caller, and because you put any running back there, and his run game still look the same, but he got Christian McCaffrey, who's the older version of Bijan Robinson, just to say the least. So let's just be honest about it. That's what he is. He's the older version of Bijan Robinson. So you got to be able to be more diverse, right? They talk about it, right? So let's look at the Atlanta Falcons offense, right? Michael Penix, top 10 pick. Kyle Pitts, top 10 pick. Bijan Robinson, top 10 pick. Drake London, top 10 pick. Jake Matthews, top 10 pick. Chris Lindstrom, top 15 pick. You see where I'm going with this? You see where I'm going with this, guys? All the talents on the offense side of the ball. But I can tell you this: defenses is going to start targeting. Targeting our special guy. This, and just like Eddie says here, Atlanta goes a 7 goal, right? Well, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. So you can start 7. You can you know come at Atlanta. So that's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. So from an offensive standpoint, they got to be better. I just want to see some. If you go back, he's talking about Kyle Shanahan, right? And we talk about one of the best offensive performance we've seen from our Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan in 2016, his MVP year. He had a touchdown to 13 different targets that season, right? That just shows you, how that offense was running. Teams didn't know what to do because he spread the ball around so much, right? And we know 7's gonna be 7, right? He's right. Eddie's right. Where 7 goes, the Falcons gonna go. But you got to be able to keep them on their toes. Like I said, now we use Drake London a lot. That's great. I love the fact that Drake London, you know, is do we are we starting to create a new triplets here, right? You know, of two players go over 150 yards in the same game from the franchise. Guess when the last time that was done? The last game of the season last year from the same two players. Guess what? They was the only two players have did it in Atlanta Falcons franchise history. Um, to be able to have a receiver and a running back go 150 yards in the same game. So that tells you the engine for Atlanta. My point is that if you know that, I know that, all our fans know that, those defenses in NFL knows that as well. So I'm back. I hope everybody didn't leave. Hey, that's when you do when you go live, right? When you go live and your internet goes out on you, right? So, hey, I'm back, man. So let me finish this up before I go out again. But basically, what I was saying was is that we just want to be able to see the Atlanta Falcons offense do more, right? Spread the wealth more, right? I want everybody to know Drake London is a beast because we know he is. Everybody already knows that Bijan is probably the best running back in the league right now, right? We all know this, but for Atlanta Falcons to improve, they got to get Kyle Pitts more involved. They got to get Darnell Mooney back to get healthy. Or, like I said, they can make a move to go get another guy that can take the top off. Because I think that would open up the Atlanta Falcons offense even more if a threat of somebody going over somebody's head, right, with the ball. That makes it even more deadly, right? Um, So that's what we got to see. That's what we want to see from the Atlanta Falcons, man. You got to be able to 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 continue to improve, right? You're excited, you like what you're seeing from this week, but you want to see these guys improve, right? From a defense standpoint, like I said, stop the run. If they stop the run, we're not getting up. I mean, explosive plays. I mean, honestly, like I said, they have not gave up 300 yards yet, right? So you got to be impressed you're seeing from Atlanta Falcons as well. But they can be better, guys. And that's fine. We want them to be better, right? We want them to be playing really, really good football in late November, early December, because then because let's not forget where Atlanta Falcons was last year around this time, right? They was number one in the division. Um, you know, think we're gonna run away with it, and then what happened? We lost 6 of our last 8 games. When we were 6-2, remember we were 6-2. We lost 6 of our last 8 games. So Atlanta Falcons, hope they keep that in back in mind. Raheem Morris, right? Right. You haven't won anything yet. And I'm gonna put it to the analogy like this that everybody can understand. Then I'm gonna get up out of here. And the analogy is 28-3. And I know that hurts. I know that hurts. But you ain't won till you won, man. So yes, I love where we are in 5 weeks, but they can be better. And this game showed that, right? They was dominant in the first half. The second half, they had a little slippage. However, the situational football moments, they excelled at once again. And sometimes in the NFL, that's all you need. I understand, right? That 4-minute offense was spectacular. They kick the field goal when they need to make the field goal, right? The defense got stops when they need to make the stops. So situational football is it's running really good. But at the end of the day, you don't want that, right? You want perfection, which you'll never achieve, but you're striving for it, right? You want to have a complete game from 60 minutes, start to finish, complete domination. If you can do that, that's what we want to see. That's all I'm saying. So yes, the Atlanta Falcons can be better, right? They got another primetime game to show themselves. Come back later on this week, and we're gonna definitely talk about the keys for this game, playing our old foe, right? It's a lot of familiarity in this game, right? Um, Jeff Albrecht should know Robert Saleh really well. That was his head coach, he's defense coordinator, right? Um, Kyle Shanahan, Raheem Morris got a long, long history going back to Washington when he was there. There was coaches on that staff with Kyle's dad, Mike Shanahan. So it's a lot of history. Of course, Kyle was here when Raheem Morris was the on the offense side and defensive side, in that Super Bowl season. So it's a lot of history here. So we're gonna see, what they can get out of this game. This is a team that's 4-2, so it's not like we playing slouches. So it's gonna be a really important game. We're playing on their turf. They just came off a loss. They're gonna be bad because they had a loss. So we'll definitely get to see the best version of the San Francisco 49ers. They do have a players injured, so we'll talk about that when I come back. So be on the lookout for that, guys. But it is Victory Tuesday. Like I said, didn't want to come on here and spoil it too much, but they can be better, guys. And that's what I want to see in the end of the day. What's going on, 330? All right. With that being said, guys, I'm out of here. Once again, this is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.